It's hard to believe it's Thanksgiving time, guys. We appreciate you joining in with us this morning. And this morning, our team at Bev & want to thank you very much for the time that you've spent with us this year and also throughout the years. We want to give you a warm, happy Thanksgiving from our home to yours. We appreciate the opportunity to be of service, to work with buyers, work with sellers, give our advice, try to help you through the process with your transitions, and we're very grateful for the relationships that we've established. Welcome to Breakfast with Bev this morning. I'm Bev Curtis here at Bev & Co. at House of Brokers, and I'm going to kind of have our team kind of self-introduce themselves.
I'm Cheryl Moffin.
I'm Marla Portra.
I'm Dan Fowler.
And I'm Alan Curtis.
This morning we're going to do something a little bit different. Our viewers that have joined in through us throughout the years have always asked us a few questions about real estate topics. And so we've got several people that have actually gave us some questions. And if you're listening to us live, feel free to join in and ask any questions. And we'll be happy to give our opinion or advice and anything that we could do to be of help. So we've got a few, I think, to get started here.
Yeah, so, and again, like Bev said, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them to us live, and Cheryl's going to see them here. She'll read them out, so we'll get to them while we're on air. And you can ask us anything. Doesn't have to be real estate related. So, within reason, you know.
That's what I say. Keep it clean, guys. Keep it clean.
Keep it clean. All right, so we had a couple questions that our viewers gave to us. Our first question, this is a really good one actually for Alan. Alan gets to chat on this one.
Oh,
Alan
boy.
Bev can chat. So is investing in rental properties really, truly easy money?
Oh boy, well that's a good question, and I'm going to say just like anything, nothing is really easy money. We do it from the point of this is kind of our end game is investment properties, so we probably look at it a little bit differently than somebody that is investing in real estate to live off of. No, it's not easy money because you're going to spend money on the property as you go, so you're always going to have to figure that into your equation when you're buying a property. Like I said, it's our end game, so we can look at it differently. I think the biggest thing is when you do investment property, you have to work it backwards, and it has to make sense for you and how you're going to run that investment property.
And I think to kind of add on to what Alan is saying is, if you're not real hands-on and can do a lot of the repairs yourself, you have to kind of look at that equation a little bit differently.
Absolutely.
Too, because we're very fortunate and blessed that Alan can pretty much fix anything. So he gets the calls at all weird hours of the day and night, and he can run over, and many times he can take care of it.
Right.
But if you have to sub all of that out, it's something that you have to look at from the financial aspect.
Yeah, if you're managing your properties yourself and are using your own time and elbow grease to do repairs, it's a little bit easier money.
Yeah.
But it's never easy money.
Yeah.
A little bit more money.
Right, exactly, exactly.
Well, and because I actually had been talking to some people about that recently. They're like, well, who manages the property if I own it and want to get into rental property? It's like, well, you can pick whatever property management company you want, but keep in mind, they take a chunk out of every month,
Right.
10 to 16%
Right.
sometimes.
Right. Yes. Everybody's got their hands out somewhere. So, okay.
All right, so hopefully that answered that question well. Our second question, is it better for sellers to go ahead and list now in the fall while inventory is low and they don't have a lot of competition, or wait until spring when you're going to have more buyers interested?
I'm going to let Dan take that one because you're out there working with buyers right now and you're having a hard time trying to find them the property that they're looking for.
That's right. It's kind of a double-edged sword on this one because buyers this time of year expect to get a better buy because they're like, well, nobody wants their property on the market in the fall and winter, so I can go out and get a better buy. The flip side of that is there's not much inventory right now. So everybody's going after that same low inventory. So from a buyer standpoint, you can maybe get a better buy, but sometimes that doesn't come to fruition because of the low inventory. So from I guess if you work it from the other side, sometimes, listing your house this time of year, especially with low inventory, might actually be advantageous rather than going to the spring. Now, I know on the spring market there's more buyers out there, and maybe you can get more money for it.
There's
But if
more
you've got a really good
competition.
property, if you've got a really good property out there, listing it in the fall is okay, and you can probably move it pretty quick.
Well, sales have kind of moved pretty readily this fall for us, I know. And I think part of it depends on your price point too. And it depends on if your property is ready to be showcased to go on the market. If you have quite a little honeydew list and you're wanting to get the premium price, then you might want to take your time through the winter months and get it prepped out, cleaned up, fixed up, whatever it needs to happen, so that you can put it on and it shows the best light in the spring market. If you've got a property that's pretty much ready to go and in a price point that is very desirable, then your odds are pretty good that it will sell through the winter months as well, because real estate is local, it sells all year round. So keep that in mind.
Well, I'm actually showing more new construction right now than I am, and that's because the used inventory is a little low,
That's right.
and the new show's pretty.
The
So,
new show's pretty sells, as Cheryl always says. So.
That's my motto. So we have another question, and actually, we are doing a full segment on this towards the end of the year, but we can kind of touch on it today. It's Michelle O'Neill asked, how does the market look going into 2020?
Well, I think for us it actually looks very bright, the future does, because right now I have to say we're receiving quite a few calls from our past clients and referrals looking for us to come and do home evaluations, where we actually come to the home, check out what they have, figure out a strategy and a game plan as far as, do we list now, do we list in the spring, what needs to happen with the home. We have a fair amount of homes under contract for this type of year, more so than usual. And actually our buyers that are searching are actually, they're really fully engaged looking at the inventory coming on too. I think that with a election year coming up next year, it always keeps interest rates kind of suppressed. Interest rates are very low right now. So if someone is not going to consider doing a refinance and stay put for a long period of time, then I think this is a great opportunity moving forward to take advantage of the market. So in my opinion, it's going to be a really good 2020.
Well, and the end of this year and hopefully going into the beginning of next year, interest rates are so much lower than they were at the beginning of last year.
Yes.
So I think the market, we're going to see it a lot better than it was this time last year and going into 2020.
Almost a full percent, because buyers that we had that purchased last year can refi now literally a full percent and really take that monthly payment down. So if you haven't thought about refining and you are planning on staying put for a while, definitely seek out your lender and have a conversation, because it could be well worth your while and happy on your pocketbook.
So we have another question from Tony. He said, when is the best time to put a home on the market to sell when building a new home to move into?
That's a good one.
good question.
That's a good one. Repeat that one more time.
So when is the best time to put a home on the market to sell when you're building a new one to move into? So in the process of building.
I think part of it depends on how comfortable you are if you had to have two homes for a little bit. Because if you're in the process of building new homes, we have people do it both ways. So for instance, I had a couple earlier this year that built a new home with Pate Jones Construction, a builder that we work with, and they opted that they definitely didn't want two house payments at one time. So we sold their existing home first. We put them into a temporary rental, and then as soon as their home closed, they began basically digging the groundwork for their new home and just moved in a couple months ago. So that's the safest way to do it. If you're in a financial position where you can have a little bit of overlap, then some people do not want to move twice. They don't like that idea, and they'd rather stay in their own home all the way up until the time. So just know if you do that, you could get it sold on time, and all the cards could line up just fine. However, if you're, financially, if you're okay for a little bit of overlap, it's perfectly fine to do that. That one's really going to be a personal preference on your risk factor and how much risk you're willing to incur.
Well, and some houses move faster. you have a house that's, in the price point that's moving really well, you might be able to swing it without much, time in between. But if you have a really large house and a high-end price point, and you're building to downsize, you might go ahead and put it on just because you don't know how long it'll take to get it moved.
And another option that we've done in the past too is that you could put the property on now, but then try to do a rent back to stay in your home. Because if somebody wants to lock in at a lower interest rate, but maybe they're like in a lease for a little while and they need to buy a little time and you need to buy a little time, that could also be a good little opportunity there that's a win-win for both sides. So I hate to say it depends, but a lot of it depends on the time of the year, the price point that you're in, and how much risk you're willing to incur.
And then also to go off, the trade option. Some people, there are builders that will take homes in on a trade, so you don't have to make that decision. You just trade it, move into your new home when you're done, and all that.
Builders can usually fix it a lot
And
less
that,
expensive than you can. So.
yeah, and that is one I have to say, working with Pate Jones Construction, I know other builders are like this too. They are very creative and can think outside the box on things like that. So usually if you're doing a trade in on something, the rule of thumb is the trade that you are trading in, your existing home, would need to be at least half value or less of the home that you're purchasing, that you're building. So if it's more than that, then the numbers kind of get a little out of whack. So kind of keep that in mind too when you're thinking of a trade option.
And then, so Jenny asked, when is the best time to start the buying process?
Well, Dan, you're the buyer's agent here. You're the expert.
Take it
We're
away.
going to let you take this
Well,
one
I'm
away.
not quite sure.
Like time of year or timing and like.
Do you want to say it depends?
It depends.
It depends. It all depends in real
It's
estate.
the realtor fallback answer. It depends. Well, I guess let's say somebody's just starting from scratch and they can buy whenever. Obviously, what my buyers, when we were in the spring and summer, we were competing against multiple offers and the prices were higher at that point in time. And I always say my buyer loses a little leverage when all that happens. So if you have your choice of when to buy, I think really late summer, early fall is a good time to get out there and buy. Only from the simple fact that you run into less multiple offer situations.
Less competition.
Yeah, and again, some people don't want to be sitting on their house going through the fall and winter market and might be able to negotiate a little bit better. So if you have your choice, that's whenever I would buy a house, would be late summer, early fall.
And I think logistically too, it's you as a buyer having all of your ducks in a row with your lender and financing. That way, if you do find a house that you want to pull the trigger on, you're ready to go if you're in a multiple offer situation where somebody else may not be.
Absolutely. I am finding out, kudos to our clients, because our clients are getting more and more educated about this process. So I don't have any clients, thankfully, I don't have any clients coming to me that haven't been pre-approved. I think they all know they got to go get that step out of the way, just like Alan's saying, because I have seen them come and look and say, I love this house, and then it's time to go get pre-approved, and they go do that pre-approval process and come back and their house is gone.
Yep.
Instead of having it ready to go and make that offer when you wanted it. So
Yeah.
get that out of the way.
Yeah. Well, I think in an ideal world, it's always been the thought that if you could buy in the off season, which would be summer, fall, winter, and sell in the spring market, you get the best of both worlds, but usually the stars do not align up for that to actually happen. So you kind of almost have to pick one or the other.
So here's a fun one, everybody. What is everybody's favorite Thanksgiving food?
Ooh. All of it?
Actually, I know mine
Desserts.
probably. My mother-in-law makes the meanest sweet potato casserole. I mean, it is like yummy, like dessert. And so I would have to say that would be mine.
It's a pretty good one.
Oh, it's hard to beat.
Gravy.
Pretty
Not all of it. I mean, it's got It's gotta be from scratch.
Not the mashed potatoes, just the gravy.
Just the gravy.
Give it
Just
the
the
spoon.
gravy. Everything else is just a receptacle for the gravy.
She dumps gravy on everything. Yeah.
So I
Good stuff.
can't remember if it was Thanksgiving last year, or maybe it was Christmas. I apologize, but Bev's sister went outside the box a little bit and made link sausage.
Yeah, it was like Italian link sausage.
And I would pick that over the ham or the turkey, hands down, any day of the week.
Yeah, he had a smile on his face all day long that day, because that spoke right to Alan's heart, didn't it? What about you, Dan?
Well, I mean, I could eat turkey year round, so I love turkey. But my mom, every year on Thanksgiving, made a candy. And so my wife has carried on that tradition, and she makes that same candy now. So I look forward to it for Thanksgiving and Christmas. This Thanksgiving
cool.
Christmas candy. So
Very cool.
that's mine.
We have a little girl running the camera. My daughter's here this morning. What's your favorite? Can you just yell out, what's your favorite thing to eat for Thanksgiving?
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie.
Two.
There's my traditional girl.
All of the
What's yours,
desserts.
Cheryl?
All of the desserts.
Yeah.
We can attest that
Skip
Cheryl
dessert.
does like desserts. We can attest for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Well, I think
Any other
that's
questions?
all of the questions we have this morning. Those are great questions. And if you guys have more, email us because we will. We can pick them up as topics moving forward next year.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you guys so much for joining in. We greatly appreciate it. And like I said earlier, we wish you a very happy Thanksgiving with your family. Safe travels, and we'll see you next week.
Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
Happy Thanksgiving.